Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar on randomization option in Testable. First of all, I should say that we'll talk about randomization options for the trials. So how to randomize the trials. We are not going to cover the randomization for the stimuli, for example, so randomization of the stimuli within a trial. That one we covered during the stimuli seminar, and it was something like that. So STIM options, random. In this case, if you have 3 images as stimuli in a trial, the order of presentation for this stimuli is going to be randomized. But we're not going to cover that, okay? So this is just about randomization of the trials in an experiment, in a project. It can work for stimuli presentation, and it can work for survey or form trials as well. The principles are exactly the same. So the first column we should use, and we should know how to use, is random. Any set of consecutive trials having the same number here will be randomized. So in this case, I have 10 trials. All of them have 1, so they will be presented in a random order. Let me also have something under trial text so that we can see the text on the screen attached, the text for each trial, so that we can follow the randomization. So let's say trial, or let's say row 3, so that we know it's the trial in row 3, and I go from row 3 to row 12. So I'm gonna save this and upload it in this experiment that I created. And then I started. Randomization. Okay, so it starts with row 10, then row 3, row 12, and so on. Okay, so that's the most basic randomization. Remember that I said that the trials must be consecutive and have the same number. If we break this set, now we're going to have a randomization of these trials. Then the participants will see that trial, and then again a randomization of these trials here. And also, if we vary the number, in this case, we will see only these 2 trials randomized first, then we will see these 3 trials randomized, then we will see this trial in a fixed position, and then we will see these trials randomized. Okay, so remember, first between row 3 and 4, then between 5, 6, and 7, then we see 8 all the time, and then we see the last ones randomized. So that's how we can use the random column. Let's illustrate. Okay, so we had a first group between trials in row 3 and 4. They should appear first in a random order. So we have row 3 first, and then we have row 4. Then we get the second set between 5 and 7, so 6, 7, and 5. Then we see row 8, and then we see the last 4 trials randomized again. So 10, 12, 9, and 11. Okay. How do we get the results, and how can we know how the trials were saved? I'm going to show you a results file immediately for the next time we go through this experiment. Let me just make sure that everything is clear in this trial file so that we can save results. Okay. Column random block is used for block randomization. So now we want to mark the trials that belong to certain blocks and have them presented in a random order as a block. So again, we use numbers for that. So we mark the trials belonging to block 1, let's say, then the trials belonging to block 2, and then the trials belonging to block 3. Again, they must be consecutive. So in this case, we have block 1, we have block 2, and we have block 3. One of these 3 blocks will be presented first, then we'll see the second block, and then we'll see the third block. Okay. Note that the trials within the block are not randomized, so you'll see them in these orders. If we want to randomize the order of the trials within a block, then we need to use again column random here. That's going to be the next step. First, let's see how this one looks like so that it's clear. Okay, randomization. So we see 3, 4, and 5. By chance, block 1 also appeared first. Then we see 6, 7, 8 again. So not much of a randomization. By chance, we got exactly the order that we would have gotten without any randomization in place. So let's run that again, just to show you that it indeed works. Okay, so let's re-upload. We don't need to re-upload anything. Let's just reload the experiment. Randomization, and now we see first is row 7. So that's this block starting first. Okay, and then 8, 9, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we see the last block. Okay, so that's clear. If we want to randomize the trials within each block, then we can mark them with 1. And actually, let me show you different ways of doing it. So note that we have everywhere 1, but not all the trials will be randomized within, because we need to take we need to observe also the groups. So this takes precedence. Now we know that these trials belong to block 1, and then one of these blocks will be presented first, and within that block those trials will be randomized. So this randomization within works only within that specific block if we have specified the different blocks here. If you want to make it whatever easier for you to follow, you can also change to 2, 2 here and 3, 3, 3. The result is going to be exactly the same. So we don't actually care what the numbers are here, as long as we have the same number for the trials that we want to randomize. Okay, what's the difference between this and having the same numbers in random without the random block? Well, in this case, this will always be presented first in a random order, followed by these trials in a random order, followed by these trials in a random order. If we have also the random block defined, then any of these 3 blocks can come first. I hope this distinction is clear. So let's see how this one looks like. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Use the Q&A option in the Zoom webinar, and I will answer them live in the webinar. I will answer the questions live here. Okay, so row 6, that means that we started with this block. Sorry, that means that we started with this block, actually. So we started with this block, and you see that the trials within this block are randomized. So next we will see 5, 3, and 4. And now we will move to the other block to be presented. Well, it happens to be the last block. So now we are at this block here. So we have 10, 11, and 12 randomized. Oops. So it's 12 first, then 11, and then 10. And then it's the last block, 9, 8, and 7. Okay. So that's all. For random block, we can also have, let me just get rid of this. For the next step is easier to follow if we don't have any within trials randomization, within blocks randomization. So for random block, we have multiple levels as well. So you can specify subgroups as well. So you can have something like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and let's say that here we also have 2, 1, 2, 1, and 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, so we have one large group 1, and one large group 2. That's the first digit here. And then within the large group 1, we have two smaller subgroups, which is this 1 and 2. Oops, and this one. And the same goes for the larger group 2. We have also two smaller groups, 1 and 2. So you can get to a very granular randomization, and that's how you can achieve very, very complex randomizations. You can achieve pretty much everything you want by taking advantage of the nested option here within the random block. So in this case, we'll start with the larger blocks. So one of these two larger blocks will appear first, and within that larger block, we will also randomize the sub-blocks, okay? So let's see the result in practice after we save this and we upload it. Oops. We don't need the stimuli, pressed by mistake, but we need to re-access the experiment. Okay, so row 3, that means that we started with this block first, the larger block 1. And by chance, we also got this smaller block first. So we should see 3, 4, and 5 next. And then we should see this other block here, so 6, 7, 8. And I'm hoping at least the smaller subgroups in group 2 are randomized. That's also okay. And then row 9, well, it didn't, they didn't randomize in another order. So let's re-access it. That's what happens when you have only two groups, two subgroups, so not many ways to randomize things, and it happens that you get exactly the same order from time to time. So 6, 7, 8, and then you see from 8 we jump to 11, because first we saw the larger group 1, and we saw them exactly in this order. They were specified here, but that was by chance determined. And then we saw trials from larger group 2, but we started with the smaller subgroup 2, so 11, 12, and then we see 9 and 10. 11, 12, and then 9 and 10. Okay, so that's it to randomization. Again, you need to have these numbers for consecutive trials, because if you have a break in the numbers here, so let's say that you have 1, 1, 1, and then you have a break and you start again with 1, 1, 1, then, or you have even 2, 2, 2, 2, let's say here, that's not gonna work. I mean, it's gonna work, but not the way that you may expect. So it's not gonna choose between this and these blocks, choose the one that to be presented first. This one will always be presented first. Then we have this trial, and then we have this one. Okay. Can also have 1, 1, 1 here, start another block randomization. So something like that. So in this case, we'll see these two blocks first in a random order, either block 1 or block 2. Then we'll see this one, and then we'll see this following two blocks in a random order, either block 1 or block 2. I hope this is clear. So it's important to not have any breaks in between. This issue with this issue with the space here is on purpose, because sometimes you may want to add an instruction screen here. Let's say instructions, moving on to part 2 of the experiment, let's say. And that's why you want this trial to be presented always in a fixed position. So that's why we opted to have this. So all the blocks that you want randomized, they must be in a consecutive way presented here. All right, so that's pretty much everything for random and random block. I hope that's clear. And now let me show you the column random pick. So this one is used to select a random subset from multiple trials, from many more trials that you have declared in the trial file. So let's say we have 5 here. So what random pick would do would look at all consecutive trials having the same number and select the number that is specified here. So in this case, we have 10 trials, all of them are marked with 5. The program is just going to select 5 of these trials and present. Let's illustrate. Okay, so we'll see only 5 trials. We see trial 11, row 11, 8, 6, 5, and 9, and that's it. And they are presented in a random order as well when they are picked from here. If we want to have different sets and to select a subsample from each set, then we must have a break here in the series. And then in this case, let's say 3 here, so it makes sense. So in this case, the program will select 5 subtrials from here. Well, actually all of them, because there are only 5. So let's have also 3 here. So the program will select 3 trials from this 5 here, and will select 3 trials from this 4 here. But what happens if you have 200 trials, 1,000 trials, whatever, and you want to select 10 out of, or 5 out of multiple sets without having these breaks here in between, right? So you want to declare somehow where the sets end. So we have this option, which is called trial group. So in this case, you can have 3 everywhere, but still mark the trials as belonging to different groups, different sets, by saying something like that. Okay, so in this case, the program, right, and the column random pick will look only inside this set. So select 3, randomly select 3 trials from this trial group 1, and then it's going to randomly select 3 trials from this trial group number 2. Okay, you can also combine random pick with random block in case you have multiple blocks. So if you have, let's say that instead of having trial group, you have exactly the same numbers here. What would happen in this case? So first, the program will decide which of these 2 blocks to present first. And from within each block, we will select 3 random trials here, and then 3 random trials there. Okay. If you have random pick, you don't need to use random anymore, because also the order of this is going to be randomized. So that's how you can combine all the options: random, random block, random pick, and trial group to achieve whatever randomization you wish or you need for your experiment. Let me quickly also tell you about advanced randomization, because we get questions about that. So if you notice, when you go to setup, you get an option to enable advanced randomization. So normally, like in most other program softwares, we rely on simple randomization. We rely on the randomization function in JavaScript, in this case, to do this. However, if we want true randomization, we can bypass the JavaScript functions and use the functions presented in this website, random.org, that generates random sequences based on atmospheric noise and so on. You get all the details about this way of generating random numbers here, and it's supposed to be the the most advanced randomization that you can get. Note that it takes longer. So if you have many trials and if you enable advanced randomization, the experiment is going to take longer to load and sometimes considerably longer. So do try it before and make sure that it takes a reasonable amount of time. You don't want to send a link to an experiment to participants and then participants to have to wait 10 minutes for the experiment to load. But just to let you know that you have also this option and to explain what this advanced randomization means. That's pretty much it. I don't see any questions, so I will end the webinar here. I hope everything is clear. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email us at contact@testable.org, and we'll be happy to help and to answer any questions you may have. Ciao, ciao.